Ezekiel 34:4. The disease have ye not strengthened, neither have ye healed that which was sick, neither have ye bound that which was broken, neither have you brought again that which was driven away, neither have you sought that which was lost, but with force and with cruelty you have ruled them. Kol halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. Now more so than ever, the would-be judges, the 144,000 of the heavenly government that is to be assigned here on earth under the authority of who the world ignorantly and falsely calls Jesus Christ. All right. 144,000 or 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel to be the new government on earth. All right. To bring forth the laws of heaven on earth as it is in heaven, as the Lord's Prayer says. That is how his authority will be put over man, by the tabernacle of David. Men. Ezekiel 34:31. All right. And to the rest of the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations, all right, that the Lord is going to send the angels to gather them up from among those heathen, all right, and separate the wheat from the tares. The wheat being the Israelites who look like the other heathen, and the tares being those who are amongst us, who look like us and are not us. That is scriptural. That is the kingdom of heaven, and that is what happens here on earth. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another brutal lesson in truth. And as you can see, over 200 so-called black cities, because you can clearly see that her skin is brown. All right, that blackness thing, it's a demon within itself. Our people are brown. There's no such thing as black people. Same as there's no such thing as white people. Those are social constructs that they made up. I look on the screen, I see 3 brown women, different shades of brown, as we always tell you. All right. And they told you to look up the definition of black. That's why they chose that word. Right. Black is negative and bad, ugly and unclean and all those things. And then they put that unclean, dirty, unworthy, all that before the word people. All right. You get it? If you don't, you're just extra stupid. All right. But I'm going to go into a lesson. There's a video I've been sitting on. I think my cousin sent me this first. All right. Brother Zahar Yahweh may have sent it to me as well. And it's a video. I'm going to play like 4 minutes of it and bring out some scriptures and some historical points. But it's a video speaking about Malcolm X is speaking, and it's called Leaked, Malcolm X's final interview before his death. All right. And the truth is that he was a threat to him, because even though Martin Luther King was their beta Kunalite, they saw him as a threat too. But then that was also after he was seen talking to Malcolm X and said he had made a mistake, because Malcolm X had to, by any means necessary, if they smack me, we punch them back. If they kick us, we kick them 3 times. He had that mentality. All right. If they kill one of us, we kill 2 of them. He had that mentality. All right. And, which is actually a righteous mentality. Okay. That whole turn the cheek, that's towards your neighbor, your own people, not towards your enemy who is constantly oppressing you. And I'm going to let, about 4 minutes of this video play. And then I'm going to bring out some scriptures and some historical points just to add edification to the whole thing. So without any further ado.
Times, whether you have or not, and I think probably you have.
Hold on, let's turn this up.
It seemed to me been preaching hate to meet hate. I don't.
Let's start that
sometimes, whether you have or not, and I think probably you have sometimes, it seemed to me, been preaching hate to meet hate.
I don't advocate any kind of hate.
But there's a lot of talk that sounds very much like it.
No, I think that
and every policy that was being done to the so-called white man, I mean, it was being done by the so-called white man, and all of his talk points were full of hate. And I had a problem with make hate meeting hate. What are you supposed to meet hate with? All right. When you try to be, you know, if you haven't seen the video lately of the man who was attacked and they flipped over his truck with a, he was just making a delivery and got attacked by, 5 white men. All right. 2 of them were business owners. He's making delivery to their business. And they made some outrageous allegations. Towns were burnt down behind allegations like this. People were hung, and you can clearly see that that's where this was heading. They took a bulldozer and turned over his tractor trailer. All right, and accused him of stealing the phone. All right, and it's like, when and where did he steal a phone? All right, and he's making a delivery. It's insane.
guilt complex of the American white man is so profound until when you begin to analyze the real condition of the black man in America, instead of the American white man eliminating the causes that create that condition, he tries to cover it up by accusing his accusers.
You know what? We call that projection. He tries to cover it up by accusing his accuser of hate. So he just cut the hell out this so-called white man. So let's go look up projection. And this is the AI overview, and it says projection is in psychology. Projection is a defense mechanism where individuals unconsciously, and this wasn't unconscious, this is very consciously, attribute their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or impulses to someone else. It is a way of avoiding uncomfortable internal experiences by externalizing them. And so Esau Edom does this all the time, day in and day out, right? In speech, in news, in reporting of information. All right.
This is an interview they buried behind decades of slogans, textbooks, and whitewashed documentaries. One where Malcolm X didn't just criticize America, he accused it. He didn't call the United States racist. He called it criminal. In this interview, calm, clear, and precise, Malcolm lays out what no one else dared to say out loud, that what was happening to black Americans wasn't a civil rights issue. It was a human rights crime. But to what extent did he go that made them delete the interview? Let's get into it.
We believe that our problem is one not a violation of civil rights, but a violation of human rights. Not only are we denied the right to be a citizen in the United States, we're denied the right to be a human being.
To understand...
Then they showed you a Jake about to be hung by a crowd of white males. They flashed it across the screen. And then they showed you the death of Kennedy.
We believe that our problem is one not a violation of civil rights, but a violation of human rights.
There it is. So these Edomites are posing with this victim who was burned, hung, beaten, and his penis cut off by all these Christian males whose children and grandchildren are all up in your government, your police departments, your fire departments, and your Congress, in your churches, church leaders, because everything I just said is represented here. All right. You have police officers, lawyers, doctors. They all participated in this. Congressmen, they will all be there at these things, and they'd make a spectacle of it. This is America. And they'll call this critical race theory. They don't want, this is critical race history. They don't want this to be told. All right. And they definitely never wanted Israelites to have autonomous wealth. All right. Hence, the burning down of the burning down and drowning of all the towns and neighborhoods that were successful and replacing them with ghettos. places destitute of good schooling, jobs, and opportunity. Because, when Jake didn't have that and built them up for themselves, the so-called white man came in and did what he did. All right, so let's look up that word autonomous wealth. And this is the AI overview. It said, oh no, that's loaded statements. Matter of fact, I'll read that anyway, because in that interview, that's what he did. He tried to use a loaded statement, all right, to set his point off. All right, then I'll read autonomous wealth. It says, loaded statements are phrases or claims that rely on emotional charged language to evoke a strong reaction rather than rely on objective evidence or reasoning. Like this: how can you grow up knowing this, seeing this, and not meet hate with hate? What are you supposed to meet this with? What are you supposed to, how are you supposed to respond to this being done to your people in the tens of thousands on a daily basis? When pickup truck loads of men like this ride through your neighborhoods, 2 in the cab, 3 or 4 in the back with shotguns and bats, and they jump out and they just beat up, kill, and hang, snatch up young, brown men. Snatch up, a couple young brown girls, drive them out to the forest preserves and run trains on them. All right? And then accuse you. Then they project and accuse of you of doing the same to one of their women. And this is the end result. You get put on display before you're beaten, tortured, and hung, and your penis cut from your body. Your fingers, before you die a torturous and painful death when you're completely innocent of what they've accused you of in the first place. And none of these guys went to jail for it. And they don't want you to talk about that. And they have that mindset, and that spirit is back here now. Those 5 men that attacked that man in the South a couple days ago, this is the spirit they're in. This is what they wanted to do. You better get back in your truck, boy, before something bad happens. Then he gets back in his truck, and they pull up to his truck with a bulldozer and turn it over. Man, this is let's go back now. I got a scripture I want to bring out too, why it's fresh in my head. Oh yeah, autonomous wealth. Which is basically, I don't know why it's not popping up now. Autonomous Wealth AI Overview. All right, let's see what it says. Autonomous wealth is a management or autonomous AI and wealth management. What the hell is this? That's not the same definition I had before. But basically, autonomous wealth is when you generate wealth where you can be self-sustaining within your wealth. You don't need anyone else. And they denied Jake that. And Jake was able to do that here in America when these white males were not able to do so. And they got jealous, and the end result of it was the burning down and destruction of so-called black towns. More than 200 of them. And tens of thousands, in the hundreds of thousands of hangings and rapes committed by white males where none of them ever went to jail.
Rights. Not only are we denied the right to be a citizen in the United States, we're denied the right to be a human being.
To understand what Malcolm X exposed in this interview, you have to drop everything you've been taught about how America works. Every textbook, every speech, every pledge, all of it rests on one central illusion: that America was a good idea poisoned by bad individuals. That racism was a glitch, a few bad apples, a chapter.
So that means that Esau Edom, the so-called white man, continually put bad apples and a few rotten individuals. He kept them in office. He made sure that they were police officers. He made sure that they were lawyers. He made sure that they were doctors. He made sure that they were judges. He made sure that they were firemen, congressmen, and House of Representatives. How did all the bad apples all end up in positions of power where they can make decisions and do all these things continually? While the good, all the good white people weren't in a position where they could say or do anything. They just shook their head and would state that this is bad, but yet nothing done about it.
Something we just had to evolve past. But that's not what Malcolm saw. What he describes, calmly without raising his voice, is something far more damning, that the entire system was built from the beginning to reduce black people into a permanent underclass.
That's right.
Not by accident, not by oversight, but by deliberate strategic design. This is not about slavery in the past. It's about how that same logic was repackaged after emancipation. The plantations became prisons.
That's right.
The overseers became police.
Yep.
The chains became policies.
Yes. Redlining, Jim Crow, the FHA, the Federal Housing Authority, operated in a whites-only position for the first 40 years of his existence. All right. Denials and the arrested development of so-called black people, and they hid that all in their, actually they didn't even hide it, man, to be honest. What they did try to do was hide their hate. All right, but this is two scriptures, Wisdom of Solomon 2:10. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, or reverence the ancient gray hairs of the aged. And that has been, and that especially now, the determination of Esau Edom, the so-called white man. And this one as well. This is Isaiah 29:15. All right, because he'll, say something that's hateful and destructive, but he'll try to hide it with clever speech and long words and put it somewhere in the middle on page 20, knowing that most people aren't going to read the first 19 pages. They might read the first 2 or 3. You'll hide the incriminating portions of it on page 300 or something like that. All right. But this is Isaiah 29:15. Woe unto them that seek to hide their counsel from Yahweh, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us and who knoweth us? All right. So they just constant snaky devices, to break down and destroy our people, especially Judah, because they understand that Judah, the so-called black man here in America, is the head tribe. The Lord came out of the Judah. And they understood that much in prophecy, that if Judah, anything that Judah does, the rest of the tribes will follow. All right. So they had to keep that separation. And they had to keep that control and keep that yoke heavier on Judah than on the rest of the tribes. All the tribes call hell, but Judah called it the worst.
From housing and education to voting and employment, every institution was structured to limit movement, limit growth, and limit visibility. Malcolm isn't shocked by inequality. He expects it. He's not surprised that black Americans are poor, policed, and forgotten. He's saying that's the point. That's how the system knows it's working. What makes this interview so devastating is that he's not angry. He's analytical. He's a man laying out a diagram of oppression, like a mechanic showing you the blueprint of a machine that functions correctly, a machine that produces exactly what it was designed to.
Which is oppression and the destruction of any attempt to have autonomous wealth in your community and within your family. They design music and entertainment to break up and destroy the family. They have elevated the woman over the man. These are all devices, wicked devices of cruelty pushed by Esau Edom, the self-professed white man.
Control. And here's the most dangerous part, the one that gets ignored in mainstream retellings of Malcolm's legacy. He doesn't blame individual racists. He doesn't waste time on people who use slurs or wave Confederate flags. Because in his view, that's theater. The real problem isn't hatred, it's architecture. Nonviolence at its core is a powerful idea.
It's actually both, but
It takes discipline, courage, and clarity of purpose. But in America, Malcolm saw something far more sinister taking shape. He saw nonviolence being transformed from a moral stance into a domestic public relations campaign. The United States didn't fear peace. It marketed it. It wrapped itself in it. As long as the resistance was quiet, controlled, and neatly televised, the system could keep functioning in the background, untouched.
that's right.
You could have marches. You could sing hymns. You could even get beaten in front of the cameras. Just don't ever cross the line into self-determination.
And don't cross the line into self-determination. And don't you dare try to defend yourself when these mobs come for you. All right. Here we go. Let's go back to this part. It was right here. Let's see.
Get into it.
We believe that our problem
Wait,
is one
give me a
not
second. I'm
a
kind of
violation
finding
of
it.
civil rights, but a violation of human.
Yeah, right there. Don't you dare try to arm yourself and defend and protect yourself when this is happening to you or your loved ones. You can march all you want. You can walk around with your signs to protest this outright murder. Like you said, and these were lawyers, doctors, policemen, sons and brothers of lawyers, doctors, policemen, congressmen, members of the House of Representatives, etc., that participated in these postcards, all right, of these picnics, pick a nigga, these beatings, these murders, all right, and then sometimes these people were even eaten. Okay, these cards were sent back and forth across America, and there's still evidence of this, even with addresses and names. These people should be hunted down like so-called Nazis and brought to justice. Their families' wealth, bank accounts should be taken, and all their wealth should be given to the relatives, the descendants of the victims who suffered these crimes. That would be justice. That would be right. Because you best believe if you had archaeological records and names, you could track down family members of so-called black people that committed these sort of atrocities in the thousands. Oh, you think that these Edomites wouldn't do it? Yeah, they would. You best believe they would.
When we look around and we see today in our politics a rich white man telling working class white people that their problem is brown people, we need to understand the historical pedigree of that. That is symbolic of the entire history of race and class politics in America. The history of rich white people telling working class and poor white people that their problem are black and brown people. Beginning in the 1600s, that is what happens. Prior to about 1670 or so, there was no such thing as the white race, at least not recognized as such, called as such.
True.
That is not what people of European descent were when they were in Europe.
True.
They were English, they were Irish, they were Scottish, they were whatever they were. They were not white. Only in the colonies do we become white, and for a very specific reason, because in those early...
They became white to hide the fact that they were Edom. Okay, they became English and Scots and whatever, also to hide the fact that they were not Edom. All right? Because from the time of fall of Rome all the way up until about the 1700s, Scotland and Ireland, Britain was full of so-called black people. Germany, Spain, all those places. All the coats of arms are so-called, of brown people. Okay? That's facts. All right? So Esau, Edom is constantly moving in and taking other people's lands and then claiming to be those people. That's another thing. So I've been telling you for years that whiteness was made up. And Tim Wise just confirmed that truth. And so there was no such thing as white people. before the 1670s. As a matter of fact, it was actually put on paper into law in 1681 in Virginia is where it happened. All of a sudden you had a new class of people called white. Let's let them break down on how they did it. All right. Those same racist police officers, and the plantation became prisons, and the overseers became the police officers. And that's is why. So that they could hurt, maim, kill, or keep down these brown people who had done nothing to them, just out of hate and jealousy.
Years of the colonial period, where you had white indentured servants, one level above enslaved themselves, and you had African descended folks, some of them enslaved for life, others indentured servants also in the earliest years of the colonies. Those people would often see their interests as being common. They all realized that they were being screwed over by the same landowners, the same elite. They fomented various rebellions like Bacon's Rebellion in Virginia, others as well. And as a result, the elite in the colonies realized that they had to figure out a way to get the other folks from Europe on their team. So they created this mentality that said, you're now a member of the white race. You're on our team. You're wearing our uniform. Now you're at the end of the bench. You may not get in the game, but you're on our team. You see? So then they start putting white folks, now called, on the slave patrols, right? Didn't really give them any land or any real power except the power to control people of color, which is why folks of color say, and they are right, that modern policing traces to the system of slave patrols and slavery. And we have to be clear on that. And that's very true. Because that's the history, right? Whiteness was created to
and what he just said was very, very true. It also is biblical, because he gave this newly created white men, all right, these poor whites, these hillbillies, those type of people, this power to hurt, maim, enslave, and put in jail people of color, brown people, who had done them no wrong. And this just goes back to the ancient hatred that Esau had for Jacob, when he told you in Genesis that the time, let me get that. All right. When he told you that the time for mourning his father was at hand. But after that, basically he would, kill his brother. All right, because Esau, by the sword he shall live. Matter of fact, I'm there now. Let me read that. This is Genesis 27 and 40. And by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion. See, Esau was on the bottom, and he was under Jacob. And when he got released from that, he took that sword and did what he was promised to do. It says, and thou shalt have the dominion, and thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, in his mind, the days of mourning my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And Esau has been slaying Jacob ever since. And here's a history of 200 drowned cities. Black drowned underwater. 200 black cities drowned underwater. The government's dark history. All right. Beyond Tulsa, the secret of history of flooding towns that makes lakes. The Amber Ruffin Show. I've actually used that one before. All right. But yeah, I'm gonna play just a few seconds of this video. And we'll get ready to wrap it up.
Imagine standing near a quiet, peaceful lake as you watch the sunset fall into the calm waters. It's tranquil, almost serene, until you realize the dark secret beneath the beautiful surface. What if I told you that an entire city is beneath those waters? You heard me right. Not just any town, but a black community that was once thriving. It wasn't a mistake. These cities were wiped away deliberately, and its story was buried under decades of silence. This isn't some haunting historical tale from the past, but the reality of over 200 black cities across the United States. Not just any
death, brown death. All right. We said over 200 cities across the United States were razed to the ground or drowned. All right. where they had autonomous wealth, where they were doing better than their white counterparts after slavery. And then they created ghettos and created policy to keep them broke, keep them poor, split up and broke the families, brought the man out of the home. All right. And so basically the YN and the YB, the twerking ghetto ass, shower cap wearing, multiple baby mama, you know, and YN at the gas station trying to rob people when they pumping gas, you know, one brother who's no longer in the camp, you know, once said many years ago that the modern day nigga is a creation of the so-called white man, and it's true. He infiltrated everything and made sure he set up the infrastructure to imprison you and keep and arrest your development. And then he infiltrated your entertainment to make sure that you went straight from school straight to the prison system, or your activities in the street, from the music and the entertainment that you listen, you end up in the morgue, and now they're selling your body parts and taking your melanin, you know, whatever. They profit off your death and your destruction in every way imaginable. So-called white people do in America. They are very guilty of that. All right. It is what it is. Read 2 more scriptures and wrap this up. This is Sirach 10:8. And it reads, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. This is 2 Ezra 12 and 32. And it reads, this is the anointed that the highest have kept for them and for their wickedness until the end. He shall reprove them and upbraid them in their cruelty. All right. As simple as that. And like that first scripture I read, Ezekiel 34, about their instruments of cruelty, that was really talking about, you know, the wicked leaders of Jacob. All right. But, you know, the duality of the scriptures, you can completely apply that to Esau, Edom now. All right. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops, salutations to all the fellow laborers that's doing this work, the would-be judges, the 144,000. All right. Abba, Shalom.